Look, there's a sense, I think, when a lot of people watching the show say we don't understand the detail of it. The Solicitor General's advice does exist on Anthony Albanese's chosen model. He hasn't released it. What does this say to you?
Well, I think legal advice should be released. I mean, this is an enormously significant referendum, and we've had no proper debate about the Voice proposal. We've had a lot of discussion over many years behind closed doors, but we haven't actually had a parliamentary committee looking at this. We haven't had a constitutional convention. We haven't had, since Labor's been in government, an institutional process to assess this. We had 7 months ago the Prime Minister go to Garma and release the form of words, and last week released the final form of words. But essentially, the Australian public have not been brought into this discussion through any mechanism of consultation, debate or dialogue. And I think that's been a fundamental problem. And the idea that we're not going to see official advice, official legal advice to the government is simply untenable.
When it's a change of the Constitution and when the Albanese government itself demanded the release of Solicitor General's advice when it came to Scott Morrison's various ministry positions, but that this change to the Constitution wouldn't warrant the release of that advice is quite absurd. On the point of bipartisanship, this is something, to succeed at a referendum, it would be very helpful to have bipartisanship. But there doesn't seem to be any attempt by Albanese to get that. Why is that?
Well, he says there has been, but I think that's pretty dubious for the reasons I just outlined. Bipartisanship is important for two reasons. It helps the referendum be carried, and I think in that sense the Prime Minister is taking a pretty big gamble here. He's assuming, I think, that he can get this referendum up without bipartisanship. Now, that means that Australia's changed fundamentally as a country, and whereas in the past we needed bipartisanship to get up referendums, we no longer need that. Well, that's a big gamble and a big risk taken by the Prime Minister. He's backing his judgment on that. But the second difficulty is this, that if we're going to put a voice into the Constitution and a voice advising the Parliament and the executive government, then at the end of the day, there has to be bipartisanship to make it work. There has to be goodwill. I mean, we can't have a situation in which the voice is established and there's an ongoing conflict about the nature of the voice and how it's to work. So you need bipartisanship not just to get up the referendum, you need bipartisanship at the end of the day if we're going to have agreement on how this fundamental change to our Constitution is actually going to work.